Everyone, and welcome to the Are We Free movement. My name is Jamal Barnes, and we're going to be talking about, in two parts, the Democrat debate from last week. Now, I know most of you probably haven't seen the debate because it was aired on a Saturday night, and most people were out at the clubs, the bars, and wherever else they were on Saturday nights. So let's get right to it. So, during the Democrat debate that was aired on the CBS network, you had Martin O'Malley, Bernie Sanders, and Hillary Clinton. And they were all in this debate. And there are several different issues that I wanted to kind of tackle. One of the issues is regarding this idea of Syrian refugees. Now, I know that some people on the right, as far as Rhino Republicans, have stated that we want to ban all refugees, any refugees from Syria and Iraq. So any of those we want them banned because of terrorism or because of threats, or they could be tied with ISIS and things like that. Well, to me, that's ludicrous, because we don't do the same thing to terrorists involving Christianity. Now, you may claim that, Christian terrorists, or should I say Christians, they don't terrorize like Muslims do. Well, here's my problem with that. We've seen this in the United States, where many of the mass shooters were Christians. Okay? And we're not out there trying to ban all Christians because of something that some ludicrous Christian did. We're not out there banning atheists because of what one atheist did to a few journalists earlier this year. So why are we doing this to Syrian and Iraqi refugees? I don't seem to get it. I think what we would do is, by banning these refugees, it actually creates more division and more hatred. However, I am for having background checks conducted on anyone who comes here. Not just refugees from Syria and Iraq. Anyone who comes from any country and they want to come into the United States, to me, should go through some sort of process or some type of background check to come here, so we can see if they have any ties to any terrorist group or any hate group, rather. Because those terms, terrorist and hate, can intertwine and are interchangeable. So, in this case, I will agree with the Democrats here. Except for what the Democrats want is we should just take in all the refugees and just have an open border. I'm not saying that we should ban the refugees, but I think that there should be some type of process for them to come in. I don't think that we should just take every single refugee and not see what they have on them or what type of background they may have. So, to me, on that issue, we should have it with some strings attached. Now, obviously, we've had folks like Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders who have stated that we should just take them in. And so, on that note, I'm going to side with the Democrats there. Now, the issue of this idea that we should have a living wage and a minimum wage, and if you're not for a living wage, then you are extreme, you are ridiculous, you don't support the poor. Well, that's false. I mean, not all Republicans don't support the poor, but there are certain Republicans who do support it. It's just that when you say living wage, well, what do you mean by a living wage? And this is my problem with the Democrats on this issue, is they don't define what a living wage is. They just says, well, we want a living wage of $15 to $20 an hour. Well, my thing is this, and then you're talking about small franchises, franchises who may not be able to afford to pay those higher wages. And so how do you raise wages but yet you keep jobs? And according to Democrats, and according to folks like Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders and Martin O'Malley, we should just hike up the minimum wage, and we should make it a living wage so that it makes it affordable for the middle class to be able to survive. The problem with that ends up being is that for small businesses who may not be able to afford to pay, then you're going to end up in a situation of low employment. Now, I'm sorry that we're gonna brand the right wing as a extreme regarding this issue, but you can't have things like minimum wage hikes and expect for people to just keep jobs. And this just isn't going to happen. All it's going to do is just going to create a lot of chaos. That's all it's going to do. You're going to have people who are losing jobs. You're going to see more layoffs. And so having a higher minimum wage, while it sounds great on paper, in actuality, it won't work. We're seeing this with places like McDonald's, where they're testing robots in Europe and many other places. So how do you justify raising a higher wage and trying to balance corporations who like to make robots and things like that to try to keep expenditures down and revenues up? So I don't think, in my humble opinion, the Democrats really have a plan on how they would tackle the whole issue of minimum wage. And just raising it is just not going to solve. It's going to, essentially what it's going to do is it's going to create inflation. I mean, prices are going to go up. People, when they go to McDonald's, instead of a McChicken being $1.06, now you're going to see a McChicken at $3 and $4. So they can compensate those employees with a higher wage. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to look at costs. And unfortunately, Democrats just do not seem to understand basic economics on how business actually works. Now, the issue of the Black Lives Matter movement, that was talked about also in the debate, and we've seen Bernie Sanders came out and said that Black lives truly matter, and that we should, and then he brought up some statistics and things like the number of African Americans are in prison are at 50%. Most of the minorities are in jail. They have a hard time of getting jobs. They're just having a hard time, period. Well, here's the unfortunate thing for Mr. Bernie Sanders. Has Bernie Sanders ever looked into the number of people with criminal backgrounds? The number of African Americans with criminal backgrounds is sky high. Sky high. And what you're seeing is employers are just not wanting to hire people of criminal backgrounds. And as the left would argue, that's skewed towards minorities for criminal backgrounds more than whites or people of the majority. And the other thing too is we're seeing the issue of racial profiling. You get into issues with the police and things of that sort. But the thing with the job issue of African Americans not getting jobs is a lot of it has to do with criminal backgrounds. If you have a higher number of people with criminal backgrounds and you have a lot of employers who just refuse to how can I put this? When you have so many people with criminal backgrounds, okay, and you've got employers who just don't want to hire them, don't want to take the risks, then what should end up happening is you have people who go back out there and resort back to crime again and again and again and again. And I think part of the problem is, I agree that the criminal justice system does need to be revamped because there's a lot of loopholes and a lot of problems with it. But solving the criminal justice system is not going to be a simple overnight task. It's going to take a lot of people. It's going to take years before the justice system gets under control. And what we're seeing is also the kids who, by the way, to all those kids who like to fight every single day, you're part of the reason why the number of African Americans don't have jobs now. Because the kids are out there fighting every single day. You got the guys on the corner, okay? The kids see this kind of stuff, and then when they grow up, they think that's cool. So what they do when they get older, they end up being on the corner. They end up joining gangs. They end up drug dealing. They end up doing dope. So how do you get minorities jobs if they're continuing to commit crime? If people stop committing crime, especially, and I'm talking on all sides, but I'm talking in particular minorities, if minorities were to stop committing crime, then maybe, just maybe, we wouldn't have so many people with criminal backgrounds. Also, to those little officers who like to sit there and plant things on people, yeah, I'm talking about those cops too. Now, I agree with the Democrats regarding the police. I think the police need to have body cameras and other tools that they can use to cover their butts to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do and that they're not planting evidence on people or shooting unarmed people. But at the same time, we need to revamp in all society, not just the criminal justice system. We need to revamp in American U.S. culture. And so thank you all so much for seeing part one of my Democrat debate review. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We thrive on that. Feel free to comment on what do you all think of the Democrat debate. Thank you all very much, and have a wonderful day.